Hey everyone, my name is Poisonblade and I hope all of you are doing well today. So for today's video, we are finishing the trilogy of the Valley of the Fox Spirit by building a Red Panda Habitat. And also we're starting off by building a statue of basically the Fox Spirit herself. So with that being said, let's get straight into today's video. So because we're starting off with the statue, I want to say that S10 in a way got like a first, because I have never painted or colorized one of my statues. They were usually like marble white because I didn't want to go through the process of coloring it, because I usually, like after I finish the statue, it's like multiple different groups. And I usually then make sure that all of those groups go into one group, which also means that I can't really change the clothes anymore unless I want to select every single piece. And then I realized maybe I should actually not immediately do that, even though I definitely have the urge to do that. So yeah, S10 got the first colorized statue that I made, and then I started making more. I have a Persephone statue now that's in like full color, and also you're probably not going to see that one for a while because it was built in the time of the emotional turmoil. What was basically that the crawl space was flooded, then we got a call that the family member was in critical condition in the hospital, and all of the things that ensued from that one. So yeah, I built a statue meaning for it to go into an entire temple. And then like whenever some kind of like emotional chaos happening, I have the tendency to build a thing of a larger build, but then lose interest in it and then move on to something different. So yeah, after, or at least in that week, my building was really weird, and it's like I built a statue there, I built a big farm there, I built a, I don't know, a house in Valhalla there, and it's like, alright, why? Well, I know why, but I kept jumping around. Anyway, so I also immediately want to say, fuck everyone who says that video games are in no way beneficial, because, well, first off, for this statue, for the statue of the Fox Spirit herself, which I've called Daji because I think Daji is like one, well, it's a kind of prominent figure in Chinese history who allegedly was a Fox Spirit, but I don't know for sure. Basically, it's all based on Daji from Smite, because that's how I get into like, well, get the first-hand knowledge of like gods that I did not know about. I mean, the Morgan, first I saw her in Smite, and then I delved further into like actual research because she was such an interesting god in Smite that I wanted to know a little bit more about her. Besides that, besides learning about mythology from video games, I also had to learn somewhat accurate Han Dynasty Chinese clothes. Don't remember exactly when the let's just say Han Dynasty, might be Han, no, probably Han Dynasty. I think it was like around like the year 0 to 250 AD, which is a very big spot because Chinese history is basically, yeah, it continues to explode, or it continues to like fracture, then it gets together again, then it fractures again, then it gets together again. So 250 years span is like, that could be multiple dynasties. But the Han Dynasty was the first one that I could find, well, basically pictures of like how the clothes would have looked like. And I'm not going to say that what I'm building right now is completely accurate. There is some like fantasy in it because it's the Fox Spirit, so it's supposed to be a little bit more wild, because a Fox Spirit, it can be very beneficial, or I don't know if there are male Fox Spirits, but I think there are only female ones. They can be beneficial, but they can also be basically almost akin to demons, I think, or just can be like mean-spirited and such. Yeah, basically this Fox Spirit is like, the people of the Valley of the Fox Spirit are giving offerings to her to keep in her good graces so that they keep getting like, I don't know, bountiful harvests and such, and no like droughts and anything. I was really happy to start painting and colorizing the statue because I also, for some reason, I think it's just the red top. I don't know if it's in Mulan, but I just kept thinking of Mulan. I think I also continuously hit replay on the Christina Aguilera version of not Reflection, the other one that was new. Basically the only good things that came out of the Mulan remake, the new Christina Aguilera version of the old songs. But then, yeah, let's not touch upon the Mulan remake, like there's so much shit when it comes to that, so I just thought of Mulan, which could be because I constantly replayed Christina Aguilera songs from the Mulan remake. But yeah, so one reason why video games are used, well, not in a way, they are useful and you can learn from them, but it's also like you don't really achieve anything in the real world, which is, I think, the argument against it. But the other thing that I learned from video games is English. So if my English is at any point lacking, blame video games. Don't. But yeah, the first time I started trying to learn English is because I started playing Cold War Nightfall, and that game is fully in English, or I wanted to like German, which if I try to speak German, the entire country of Germany will just teleport into my room and just start smacking me in the head, because even trying to speak German for me, of course in high school I had to learn it, or was it middle school? I don't know American school system and then all of those things. I think it's high school, and then what I'm in now is college, but I always mess those two up. But I had to learn German and it was my worst class. But English I was pretty good at, because I started learning English because of video games, I think 4 years before I had to take English classes. So by the time I had to actually take like school mandatory English classes, I was already way ahead. And because Cold War, it's not, it is a violent game, or at least it's like an, how do you call it, MMO, like an online game. It is a multiplayer, but I always played it single player because I didn't want to play with other people and be dependent on their schedule. I just wanted to play whenever I wanted. Because Cold War, there's almost no profanity in it, so I actually learned the actual normal standard English words first instead of the profanity, which is usually the other way around when you're learning a language. You first learn the profanity and then the actual useful words, or everyday useful words. I turned it around with Cold War, and then I started with Cold War Nightfall, and then I went into other, there's prophecies and factions. I think I've then got prophecies, and whenever I found a word that I didn't know, there's quite a lot of difficult words, at least, for I think it was 8, 7 or something like that. Yeah, I was, I think, below the age requirement for Cold Wars, but that was the same with Assassin's Creed, which might be the reason why I'm the way I am right now. Also, just to tie back to what you guys are seeing right now on the screen, I'm starting building the actual Red Panda Habitat after finishing the statue, which is supposed to be somewhat accurate. Not completely, but somewhat. There's some traces. But anyway, yeah, so I learned English from games. I learned a lot of mythology because of games. I learned, because of that, also quite a bit of history from games. And then with Planet Zoo and me studying or trying to find different I don't know, reference pictures, I also learned a little bit of architecture from game, or historical architecture. So there are quite a lot of arguments on why games can be beneficial, although there is of course the argument oh, you're not achieving anything in the real world. Well, I learned English from it. I learned mythology, or base mythology. Here's the thing where I do kind of stick myself in the back, but I don't really have too much of an attention span. I'm always surprised by whenever someone says how do you have so much patience to build this or that? I don't. It's just that whenever I start building and really get into it, I get into this sort of weird zone where I tune everything out and the only thing I can focus on is actual building. Really this weird thing that happens when I'm building in Planet Zoo. It almost doesn't happen in any other games, or at least any other, like, let's say Guild Wars it doesn't happen, Smite it doesn't happen, but for some reason building games it does. And here is where this was a little bit annoying, not the zoning out part, but just the building part, because I wanted to build like a Chinese shrine, because it's the Valley of the Fox Spirit. We have that statue which is hidden in a cave, because I think after a certain point in Chinese history, like, people were, how do you call it, Fox Spirit were revered or were prayed to, and after a certain point in Chinese history, I think it was outlawed to, you know, pray to a Fox Spirit. So that's why the statue is in a cave and it's hidden, and this shrine is probably like a remnant of how it used to be. Like, I really like having these backstories in my builds because, one, it helps me build, and two, it just makes it for me more enjoyable to build, because I just like building with backstories. I then feel like, oh, this could be the reason why it's there, this could be the reason why it's there. I'm basically like explaining my own build in my head. Whenever I try to search ancient Chinese shrine, I constantly got Japanese shrines, and it was like very happy, like, oh, this looks perfect for that place. What's the name of it? Some era or some period Japanese shrine. Damn it. So I think that this shrine is actually, it is, I think, Chinese, but again, I can be wrong here. But I think from what I saw on the picture, I think it's like a actually household shrine. It's some, like, it's actually based on, I think, a furniture piece, so it wasn't supposed to be like a large building. It was supposed to be, I think, in your home for, you know, if you wanted to pray at home. And then I blew it up because I, by this point, was so tired of constantly looking for Chinese shrines that didn't, like, I wanted something small, but not too small, and I didn't want to build another pagoda or anything that was really large, but anything that wasn't large was like furniture. So I kind of take artistic freedom with this one by blowing up a, I think, furniture piece into an actual building. Yeah. Also, just because it's not going away from my mind, and that's how most of my commentaries happen, I start talking about something and then some subject just pops into my brain and it doesn't want to leave, so I need to talk about it. But yeah, I started playing, well, really playing online games with Guild Wars Nightfall, mostly because I wanted to, like, you have the dervish in Guild Wars Nightfall, and I just like the idea of me rushing into battle or holding a psych and just swinging it around, slicing through enemies. And I realized I do the same in most other games. I turn into a human-sized battering ram. Yeah, don't give me anything to aim, because, like, aiming with a gun or a bow, I'm okay with it as long as the enemy is not attacking me and it's not moving. Like, I have the kind of thing where I overanalyze a situation then, because then I'm just thinking like, oh, if I aim that direction, the enemy could not walk that direction, so maybe I should aim the other direction because maybe the enemy will flee that direction, and by the point that I actually shoot somebody, I am shredded cheese. So yeah, I just, give me a hammer, a scythe, or a greatsword, or give me a dagger, stiletto, or knife. Yes, I know most versions of how to stab people because I'm Poisonblade, what did you guys expect? But yeah, either I'm a human-sized battering ram or I turn into a sneaky, stealthy assassin, which in a way is less honorable but might be more to the point, because if you kill the leader of a nation, the entire nation falls apart and so your enemy disappears. While you could do that as well in battle, being a human-sized battering ram, but then you would have to kill more people. But then the other thing that can happen is if you kill the leader and only the leader of a nation, then you could encourage civil wars, because history has taught us that people will grab power if they can, or some people will, and that could cause even more deaths than the initial war. But then if you basically plan in advance and make the heir agreeable to you, then if you kill the leader, then the heir comes into place and becomes the new leader, and then you can solve the war diplomatically as long as you're not implicated in the murder of basically his father or mother, but most likely history-wise or realistically wise, father, because history, yeah, for a lot of people you wouldn't want to go back in history, let's put it like that. I always have some issue when people say like, oh, I wish I was born in this century, or I wanted to be, like, I'm not supposed to be born in nowadays, I was supposed to be born then, and I'm like, no, your life would have sucked back then. Like, for a very small minority, life would be good in history. For the overwhelming majority, it would suck. But yeah, this went from how video games are useful in a way, although of course everything in moderation, to I can turn into a human-sized battering ram and it might be beneficial to stab people. Well, it's one of my videos, so it's inevitably always going to turn into how to murder someone. I'm always afraid that somebody might be listening to whenever I record these things and be like, what the fuck? Should I call a mental facility or should I call the police? One of those two might be correct. But anyway, so I finished the Red Panda Habitat, didn't talk about it at all, but then I also didn't really talk too much about the actual statue, because that's just the thing. I generally, like, I have an idea of what I want to talk about, and I somewhat try to still tie back in with the video, but then I start talking about human-sized battering rams, and well, I lose the plot there, but I really enjoy doing that, because you guys get the honest Poisonblade brain, basically. But anyway, that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. This is the last of the Valley of the Fox Spirit builds, because after this was finished, I sent it off to S10 and heard an audible jaw drop, so I am happy with it. And I hope you are happy with this small side project of mine that didn't show until S10 got it. But anyway, with that being said, again, I hope you enjoyed the video. There is the like and subscribe button if you want to see more. And there's a notification button, which will probably not work on just ever. Let's just put it like that. But anyway, I wish all of you guys a wonderful day. Bye bye.